So good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Do I need the mic, or can you hear me just without it? Oh, right. Okay. Mic required. Okay. I'm Cait, and I'm here all the way from Melbourne, Australia, or Melbourne, as you guys know it. I'm the systems administrator for digital media systems and at Museum Victoria. And our role is to install and maintain the digital interactive and audio-visual displays you see in Museum Victoria's galleries and public spaces. My Twitter handle is listed here for you guys who want to follow me. So today I will introduce you to NODEL. It is a project that was developed by the Digital Media Systems team and is quietly transforming the way we deliver digital media into galleries and exhibitions. NODEL started life several years ago, literally on the back of a napkin over lunch, and it is an example of the creative ideas and people that exist at Museum Victoria. Museum Victoria is Australia's largest public organisation and a museum organisation, and consists of 3 venues spread across the city of Melbourne. Melbourne Museum, located opposite the World Heritage Royal Exhibition Building, explores natural history and cultural life in Victoria. Bunjalaka, the Aboriginal Cultural Centre, as well as IMAX, are also located here. The Immigration Museum is located in the old Customs House and showcases stories of people around the world who have migrated to Victoria. And finally, we have ScienceWorks, our most interactive museum primarily catered for kids, both young and old, that presents science and technology as a fun experience. The recently upgraded Melbourne Planetarium is also located at ScienceWorks. So Digital Media Systems is a team of just 5 staff, and as you can see, we have a lot of technology to look after. In fact, there are well over 1,000 devices spread across 386 exhibits that need to switch on and off every day. So to do this, we have what is known as a gallery control system. This system does exactly what its name implies. It controls the various devices in galleries, like projectors, computers, and even dinosaurs. The role of digital media in exhibitions has grown dramatically over time to the point where it forms an integral part of the visitor experience. It is no longer sufficient to stick a couple of DVD players in the space and expect people to sit and watch. In fact, since Melbourne Museum opened 14 years ago, the number of exhibits we have had to look after has increased 8-fold. So this slide gives you an idea of the scale of what that means. This is unbelievable. We did this about a week before I started presenting, and we couldn't believe how many exhibits it's grown in just such a short time. So as you can see, our workload has increased enormously since 2000 with each new gallery install, and it just keeps getting bigger. And they get a lot more complex. Our exhibits range from a simple looping video to large-scale installations consisting of multiple computers, displays, and mechanical components. At Museum Victoria, we have long been at the forefront of using digital media in our exhibitions. 14 years ago, we invested in a complex and bespoke system that helped us tame our multimedia. Now, as you guys are well aware, 14 years in technology is a very, very long time, and we found that it no longer served our needs. It was complex, wouldn't work with new technology, and the company that developed it went bust, so we had no avenue for support or changes. So when we scanned the market, we knew exactly what we wanted, but we couldn't find anything that would do the job just the way we liked. We were also very cautious of again being locked into a proprietary product that we had no control over. During the search, we realized that museums have unique requirements for delivering digital media. They often consist of a large array of devices that operate independently but need to be controlled from a central location. Other solutions we looked at were more device-specific and would often rely on proprietary and expensive hardware for control. As NODEL is pure software, it can be written for more general device control as required. Our idea of a control system was something that would be reliable, modular, and adaptable to our present and future needs. It also had to be developed using widely recognized programming languages and coding techniques that would be well documented, so lots of programmers, maybe some of you in this audience, could develop code for it. We found a partner in Lumicom, a Melbourne-based software development company with extensive experience in AV integration. Two of their software engineers helped us design the system architecture and coded the platform. We took this idea and a business plan to management, and they took the bold step of supporting us and investing in this project. And so, after 2 years of planning and development, we had a brand new control system that was launched as part of the First Peoples exhibition at Melbourne Museum in September last year. So what is NODEL? The name NODEL was chosen because it describes a system architecture, which is quite simply a whole lot of nodes in the network that just talk to each other. Quite brilliant. This system is made up of two parts, the platform and the recipes. The platform, or core system, is the communications layer that enables interaction between nodes and is written in Java. It uses common and open protocols like MDNS and ZeroConf to establish communication over the network. Messages between nodes are formatted in plain text using JSON, which is highly efficient and minimizes network load. Because JSON is human readable, communications can be easily examined during testing and troubleshooting. The recipes, or device drivers, are scripted in Python and tell nodes how to function. They can be written to perform specific tasks, like controlling devices or querying the status of other nodes. We have relationships in NODEL. So nodes are non-hierarchical and talk to each other using a series of actions and signals. Actions are one-on-one or one-to-one and tell other nodes or devices what to do. Signals are one-to-many, and nodes can be scripted to listen out to other nodes and then perform some actions. The way NODEL is implemented is a natural way of thinking about control. And the developers tell me NODEL has taken out a lot of complication of implementing the natural way of doing things. So it's one way to think about that simplistic way of performing, but NODEL takes a lot of complication out in the back end. NODEL has a simple and elegant design, both in its visual interface, as you can see here, as well as the underlying system architecture that uses industry-standard open protocols like Java, Python, and JSON. So what does it do? NODEL is a framework that locates, establishes, and maintains a connection between nodes. It ensures communication is valid and error-free. Users don't need to worry about the network environment and how devices talk to each other, but just what they need to do, sequencing. NODEL takes care of the communications and challenges often faced with different network environments. You guys just get on with your job. In the world of NODEL, scale doesn't matter. The protocol has been designed to handle hundreds of thousands of nodes reliably without putting any strain on the network. You can add, remove, and relocate nodes live without affecting the rest of the system. Nodes will automatically re-establish communication when they need to, using the bindings. So how is NODEL better? Because it's written in Java and Python, it is platform independent, and nodes can be hosted on any operating system that supports the Java runtime environment. Its system design makes it very resilient to network interruptions by using its underlying discovery protocol to locate and then perform the tricky task of reconnecting mass amounts of nodes, and is made for mobile. NODEL has a responsive web interface and can be accessed from any device with a browser, and is made for mobile. And one more thing, we have chosen it to share it with the world. Anyone can use it and make changes as long as these changes are contributed back to the project. Yes, NODEL is open source and free. The code and recipes are available on GitHub under the Mozilla and MIT licenses. That's the URL there, which takes you to the GitHub project page as well. So far, we have developed recipes to control a wide range of devices we use in our galleries, such as computers, projectors, power devices, TCP, and input-output. So here's a short video that demonstrates how NODEL is used in our First Peoples gallery. So what are our future plans for NODEL? Well, we are currently working with Lumicom on a dashboard node that would provide us with a quick system status of all our galleries. Other ideas we have thrown around are extracting data from NODEL to automatically log help desk calls and generate reports. Another one is self-healing nodes that automatically take care of errors as they occur, probably making my job redundant. And this list goes on and on. I hope today's presentation has given you an insight into how NODEL has made my job easier by simplifying the way we deploy and control digital media in our galleries. We hope to generate a community of users that will further strengthen the system. NODEL has been a remarkable success for Museum Victoria since its launch last year, and this is just the beginning. I'm excited about how NODEL will transform the way the world thinks about digital media control in the future. Finally, I'd like to thank everyone who made this project possible, especially Joe Coleman, who couldn't be here to present. He's from Museum Victoria, and as well as Michael Cartmel and Justin Parker from Lumicom, our dev gurus. These guys should be in Silicon Valley. Thank you for your time, and I'll take any questions you might have. Yeah. Yes. They're actually Mac Minis running Bootcamp Windows. We looked at putting iOS, but unfortunately at the moment Android nor iOS allows hardware control. So we can control software on Android, and hopefully we can get something to do with iOS, but not yet. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah. Sure. So the recipes that we got developed were from Lumicom, so they developed it. We asked them, they've worked with us for about 15 years since the museum opened. And so we asked them to develop recipes because I'm not a Python programmer. But basically anyone who knows Python can develop recipes. It's quite simple. It could be, but it's not as bad as, say, if you had a proprietary system control like AMX. You only had to get AMX controllers, programmers to write code for them. Whereas with Python, you don't have to go to Lumicom. Anyone, you can just get someone out of university who knows how to write Python, and they can write recipes. So you get the control codes from devices, and they write recipes. Once the recipes are written, I can actually script nodes to start talking to each other. It's pretty simple.
Can you speak to how you use Raspberry Pi for
Right. So we've just started using Raspberry Pis, and we've got a recipe that controls the Pi, so it can play video, it can mute and unmute the Pi, it can switch it on and switch it off. Well, switching it on, it's just power control. So we've written a recipe for that. At the moment, we've moved away from using servers, so racks of servers, streaming media, and we're moving towards solid-state players like Raspberry Pis. The player that we're using currently are Bright Signs, which we really like, except the fact that they're quite expensive. So if we're doing just a simple looping video, we're paying about $500 for a Bright Sign player. Raspberry Pi is about $70 when you take into account the case and power supply. So we're hoping to do Raspberry Pis a lot more in the future. And also, we looked at banana pies. We've just got a couple of banana pies that we're going to play around with. And has anyone heard of that? Okay, the banana pies are a bit more powerful than Raspberry Pis, and they run Android. So kind of the same. They look the same as Raspberry, a bit larger. Yeah. Sure.
What would be your most complex device that you're deploying?
With NODEL? Most complex device. See, at the moment, NODEL's just doing, device control. So it's sending ons and offs. We've got, probably the most complex we've got is the dinosaur that I showed you earlier, which does, it's got an input-output device. And so NODEL sends commands to, control the muted and unmuted using input-output. That's probably the most complex. We've also got sensors. So as people do push button or touch sensors, NODEL takes an input, and then it sends a UDP packet to a bright sign and then plays a video. And we've got one interactive which has multiple videos, it's all written in bright sign or in bright author. And so we can say play video 1, and then at the end go to video 2. At the end play loop video 1 and video 2, etc. So that's kind of the complexity we've got to right now.
Were you using like USB.GIO control, or
For dinosaurs, we use these devices called Atoms, which it's in a company called Advantech, input-output, and it's all written by the developers. I'm not a developer, so I'm not going to pretend I even know how they control it. But all they say is we need these commands to be sent, and we just send that command to it. There's a PCB that's written to control the dinosaurs. It blinks here. Oh, running NODEL. Oh, okay. No, we've just got, so it runs on Mac, Linux, or Windows, and currently it's just, we run Windows servers, virtual machines. So a lot of our nodes are just sitting on one machine. But, like a node could be sitting on a Raspberry Pi. We've got nodes sitting on Raspberry Pis. We've got nodes potentially that can sit on BrightSign, but we're trying to move away from BrightSign, so we haven't written anything with Bright script at the moment. But most of our nodes are sitting on a Windows machine. Not my favorite choice. Yeah. Yes? Correct. So it uses MDNS. So you don't need to set up any complex architecture. You don't need to set up DNS servers and DHCP. Basically, you just plug in, just take all your nodes, put it, and the great thing about NODEL is the fact that if we have touring exhibitions that we sell to other museums or other museums take it, we can build it all. So we do the full install. We deploy it using NODEL, and we can take all those nodes. It's just, it's been sitting on a Raspberry Pi, and we give that to the other museum, and as long as they've got a network point, they plug it in, and it just works. Like that's it. There's no more programming or scripting required. That's pretty much it. Thanks, guys.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here. My name is Brad Baer, and I'm the Creative Director of Environments for Bluecadet. You're getting a bit of a deal today. Until yesterday, I thought this was a 45-minute presentation, so you're getting a lot of bang for your buck in this experience. I promise I did shorten it, though, but I will go through a lot of slides. So what I'm going to talk about today is incentives and rewards in museum interactives. At Bluecadet, we do a lot of interactives, and we try using different techniques to get people really, really engaged. And one of the techniques that works really well is creating urgency. If you work at a museum, you know this is sometimes necessary. Specifically fear, where you can strike fear into someone saying this show is not going to open, we're not going to have the money, and that kind of gets things started. I'm not going to talk about fear today because that's a little frightening. Instead, I'm going to talk about more ways of incentivizing and rewarding based on games. And I need to give a little shout out. A lot of these come from Zynga, the game company. If you've played any of their games, you know they're quite addictive. So I want to start out by talking a little bit about what is gamification versus a game. We often in museums think that if something's a game, it has to be kind of completely entertainment-based, it has to be kind of hokey, but we tend to think of things more as gamification, little tricks that we can do to really get people to do something they might not have otherwise done. And what I want to do specifically today is talk about 10 different areas. So I'm going to go down this list from challenge all the way to altruism, talk about each of the principles, give an example that comes from outside of the museum, because I think that's important as well, and then give a specific example based on a project that we've worked on at Bluecadet. So everyone's probably quite familiar with the concept of challenge. It's why we play a game. It challenges us on something. It's a little difficult, but not completely impossible to keep us going and trying a little bit more and more. If we've ever played Super Mario or any games like this is the whole premise. The first level is very, very easy. You're really excited about yourself. I did it. Good job, me. And then you keep going, and levels get harder and harder along the way. So the example I'm going to use for this is for the JFK Library Museum, just outside of Boston. And we're creating a little kids tablet app, basically, that allows people to learn about the space race and Peace Corps. So it starts very, very early. You learn how to kind of steer a spaceship using the accelerometer. With Peace Corps, you learn different languages. So you learn how to say different things to build a house in Spanish. And then you actually help someone build a house in Colombia. So a fun little experience, and then this will be launching early next year. So again, this is just something that's our standard game that's challenging us a little bit. Along the way, we're learning about something very, very important. Second point we're going to talk about is recognition, and recognition is the reason we have birthdays. It's that day of the year. We feel really good. It's why we post on Facebook, and we get really happy when someone likes it. All these little things, whether it be badges or mayorships, little gifts that kind of keep us moving. If we've ever used Foursquare, we're familiar with this. We want to become the mayor of kind of an imaginary place. We think it shows respect. People value what we're saying, value what we're doing, where we're going. The museum example is something for Chemical Heritage Foundation, and this is based on vintage chemistry sets. So as you'll see here, basically you're mixing different chemicals and you're seeing the actual scientific result of what happens in the experiment. So along the way, you're unlocking other things, you're constantly being challenged, and then you're getting a point or actually a badge in the end. So not only are you just getting random points, you're getting a badge that corresponds to all of these. They have a fun name, they have a fun little logo on each of them, and people try to collect these. And to date, this app has been downloaded roughly 500,000 times, so we think the gamification is working and helping people become interested in chemistry. On the other side of things, and Marla can tell you a little bit more about this. This is actually her voice. This is for the Joseon Dynasty show at the Philadelphia Museum of Art. And instead of giving them a digital badge, what we're actually giving them is a little ticket at the end of the experience. So it's not expensive. It's not a big deal. We're just using a ticket printer. And when they write their name, they write their name in English, it turns it into this character set, and then you print it out on a ticket to see what it actually looks like, how you wrote it, how it should be written, and then it's branded for the museum on the back. So again, this is just like a little reward that people feel like they got for doing something good at the end. Point number 3 is delight and surprise. And we try to do this in all of our interactives that we do. Just little things that make people smile, moments of whimsy, moments of lightness. If you've ever played Monument Valley, this is the premise. In addition to looking like a really beautiful Escher piece, there's these moments of, that just make you smile along the way. So the example we'll use for this is the St. John Paul II Shrine. And the moment of whimsy is that there's little sensors hooked up to each of these touchscreens. So it turns from a cinematic video into the actual touchscreens, and people get really excited when they realize the screens are responding to them. And then on a smaller scale, just some of the animations as well too. They kind of flicker, they move. It just has a nice little effect that is different than doing the simplest way possible. And another project we're working on that's not quite done yet, this is for the Autry Museum. Something we're doing with this is just actually providing more of an environment as opposed to having a lot of content built into it, as we did with JP2, the Pope project. So as you walk around these things, you're seeing kind of smoke. It's kind of almost theatrical as a trailer, and it's also going to be responding to you. Point number 4 is puzzle solving. We all know about puzzles, why it challenges us. It requires thinking in different directions, multiple steps to finally get, and then kind of has that reason, you never put together half a puzzle, you want to put together the whole thing. So Clue is a good classic example of this. Game, we find out who did what, where, with when, and with what. And the example is an actual real puzzle that we created for the Sue the T-Rex at the Field Museum. This is not a Pope. So you pull the pieces of the dinosaur from the bottom, put them into place. You learn about different sizes of bones along the way, different fun facts, and then your reward at the end is that Sue comes alive and cracks the screen. And we found that this has been really successful. We found out people put it together as a group more likely. They smile. Some of them spend a couple minutes on this. Some of them will spend 12, 13 minutes reading every single detail. So puzzles are always successful. Point number 5 is tracking, and this is, I think, one of the most kind of current popular things. This is the part of making our whole life data. How many of you have a Fitbit or use Nike Run or anything like that? Okay, so quite a few people. This is the idea of kind of quantifying our life, be it sleep, diets, schedules. I use Nike Run all the time. It makes running kind of fun. It tells me, good job, you're doing well, this is your personal record, you ran this far, just kind of gamifying it. And we're working on a project right now that's using beacons, and the fun part about this is that we're incentivizing people along the way. We're allowing them to see where they are based on the beacon location, but also as they go to the different spots, we provide them with incremental rewards. So early on, they might get a slight discount at the gift shop, then they get a little better discount at the gift shop, and then at the end, they might get some sort of private tour. So I think I failed to mention this, but this is for Jefferson's Monticello. Point number 6 is cooperation. This is the reason we like team sports, working together with someone. Charades, we want to kind of beat the other team. We want to have a great relationship with our partner. And the example for this is the central space at the Field Museum. It's a Connect experience where we make it possible that you can do it by yourself, but the point is that you catch these little droplets or orbs as a team. You hold your arms together, and as you hold your arms together, you succeed more as a group. So we're using a reward at the end of this as well, too, that when you finally finish it, there's a big animation that occurs, and then a message about conservation in the environment. Competition, again, the reason why we like sports as well, too, this is trying to win at something. Thrives the desire to win and challenge others, adds the possibility of deployability and social mechanics to this as well. Thumb wrestling, if you've ever done thumb wrestling, this is the reason why thumb wrestling's fun. Want to beat our brother and sister. And I think those are awesome wrestling mask things on the thumbs. The example is the harmonica for the Ben Franklin Museum. So if you're not familiar, this is basically the equivalent of wetting your finger and moving it around a glass. And Ben Franklin invented this to create music. So what we're doing is we're teaching people kind of in the same way that Guitar Hero does this, how to use the harmonica. And you can either follow the directions or you can kind of go off key. So you see a lot of brothers and sisters battling to see who can do it better, who can do it quicker. Creation's number 8, and this is, and in the education circles, really, really popular right now. There's a concept known as free play. This is not anything new. It's the reason why we have sandboxes. You give people a set of tools and then say, what are you going to do with those tools? There's no one right answer. In SimCity, Dino Park Tycoon, these are all examples where you have the tools on the left, but you can kind of build whatever you want. The example we'll use is for the Field Museum Restoring Earth, and this is all about kind of collections as well, too. So there is no one right answer. It's kind of the Cornell box sort of thing. And zooming back here a second. What you do with the Cornell box is you pick out the different way of curating it, you pick out the color of the box, you pick out the background, and then you can share it with your friends as well. So kids like to try creating several different boxes at once as opposed to one right box. Collection, another really important thing. This is the idea of wanting it all. Maybe we're a little too old for this, but there's Pokemon cards as well. You want to have all the Pokemon cards more than your friends. And we did a project like this for the Penn Museum, and it's a Mayan burial ground. So what you do is you uncover the burial ground, you pull the different pieces of the that you find to your port, and you learn more about them. So you'll kind of see the dynamic of people around the table. They're trying to uncover things as quick as they can, and it kind of becomes a dinosaur race, a uncovery race. And the last point is altruism. Altruism is the feeling we get when we do something good. This has been in the news a lot lately. How many of you did the Ice Bucket Challenge? Nobody? All right, a couple Ice Bucket Challengers. So the idea of, by doing this, I'm doing good for someone else. People used it as sales tools, marketing tools. Bill Gates created this elaborate system to do the Ice Bucket Challenge. And we use this kind of mechanism for the National Aviary in Pittsburgh for a show called Canary's Call, where we have a game. We're teaching people how they can be good to the environment, be good to birds. This specific game is about not using products with palm oil in them. We teach people not to collect wild birds, different kinds of food they can buy that's better. And they're getting a score along the way as well. But the real benefit happens at the end where they get something, say, congratulations, you're a rare bird. No matter, even if they do really terrible, we still give them a badge. And then they can share it with their friends along with a pledge to say, I'm not going to collect wild birds. I'm going to use these kind of products. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. So it's kind of this idea of sharing it and becoming viral via social media. So to close, a couple different slides here. I think there's examples that are doing all of these things, and that's why they're so successful. We're in Dallas, so DMA Friends does not only the things we mentioned, but the concepts of reciprocity, scarcity, personalization, authority. And there's been a couple sessions as well on crowdfunding. Crowdfunding has these game mechanics as well, where we feel like we're doing something good, supporting a good cause. There's the scarcity aspect of it. There's limited time. All these different marketing tools that people use. So 8 major takeaways. Not all gamification means creating a game. Simple enough. Personalization and ability to relate is really key. So people come to the museum and not everyone has a PhD in a specific topic, so we have to find ways of reaching out to them and making it relevant or personal. Number 3 is considering the social compact of museums. So, when someone gives up their time to come to your museum or your space, what are you giving them back? Are you giving them a badge? Are you giving them a spot to share something with their friends, a photo opportunity? Whatever it may be, they need to feel like they're getting something back. Use persuasion to create agency. Again, both of these words typically sound very bad, persuasion and urgency, but they're really good in getting people to do things they wouldn't otherwise. It's important to extend the story, be it digitally or physically, ticket printout, sending something via email, sharing it on social media. Design interactives that provide a variety of experiences. We mentioned this with Sue, that some people spend a couple minutes, some people spend 10, 12, 15 minutes on it. So wherever they are in their kind of life or their knowledge on something, give something to them that's relevant. Use technology as a tool, not as a solution. People always come to us and say, I want an app, I want I want a website, I want this, and we say, is that really the best way of solving the problem? And then last, don't be afraid to look outside of museums. I come from a non-museum background, and I think sometimes we get really too caught up in museums. There's a lot of examples on a daily basis we can look to. So thanks a lot. All these slides are on Bluecadet's website, as well as my LinkedIn page, as well as a 2-page summary of all the points. So thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. So my name's Tina Shah. I'm a web developer at the Art Institute of Chicago. So 'twas the eve of 2014 when I started working at the Art Institute. A dream come true since my high school days, paying visits to the museum via field trips. Like many new to a job, I expected the first few weeks, perhaps even months, to consist of slow introductions to people and tasks, getting familiar with the surroundings, walking from one gallery to the next, and admiring artwork after artwork. But instead, there was boot camp. OSCI boot camp. The good folks from the IMA labs, Kyle and Gray, came down from Indianapolis and gave our group a rundown of what makes up the OSCI toolkit. They showed us the content management system, the code, and the nitty-gritty of what makes the application work. For those of you who don't know, OSCI stands for Online Scholarly Catalog Initiative. This initiative, conducted by the Getty Foundation, began in 2009 and asked 9 museums to rethink the traditional print catalog into digital form. Thinking about how digital publishing can break boundaries and provide access via multiple platforms, and use multimedia and web-based tools to provide engaging interactive experiences that provide greater possibilities in how scholarly content can be created, learned, and shared. So we had OSCI Bootcamp. And before I knew it, my first project was before me, Madame Leon Clapesson. Feel free to clap. In early 2014, the Art Institute presented a small exhibition that presented a behind-the-scenes look on recent conservation research on a painting by Renoir titled Madame Leon Clapesson. The findings by the conservators and scientists were incredible. And surprisingly, one of the vehicles chosen to present the detective work was the Art Institute's OSCI platform. Up until that point, the Art Institute had only released 2 beta catalogs for Monet and Renoir, and were in the process of finishing up the official catalogs for their first release. And for the Clapesson exhibit, there was no plan to have an online catalog. The plan was for this to be an in-gallery interactive using the existing AIC OSCI platform, which officially hadn't been done yet either. But everyone, surprisingly, was on board. Even the head curator was excited. I mean, how hard could this be? We've got 6 weeks We'll create the content like we know how, except this time we're just going to put this on that. From the end user using a personal computer or mobile device to view an online catalog, to multiple users using a Windows 8 multi-touch screen in a gallery setting. No big diff, right? We were definitely going to put our platform to the test for scalability. And these days, scalability is a requirement. Responsive websites that change layout, and even content depending on the type of device you're using or where you're at. Museum digital asset management systems that even take one high-resolution image of an artwork and from that point deliver to you any format you'd like, whether it's web-friendly or print. So that's what we did. We took the finished Madame Clapison OSCI and ran it on the Windows 8 multi-touch computer and found one issue, just one. With all the mouse clicking we'd been doing, we hadn't accounted for multi-touch outside of iPads and mobile phones. How do we get two fingers to zoom in on this platform? So we fixed that, and project done, hallelujah. But then we thought, why don't we run through this application from start to finish on this computer, just in case? And that was probably the smartest thing we did. Sure, if we had time, it would have been ideal to do some actual user testing, but we were so close to the opening. And so we quickly realized there wasn't just one thing we had to change, but many. The application itself worked just fine, but we had to really think about how to recontextualize the catalog for an in-gallery setting. So we sat down with pen and paper and made a list, a long list. First off, some user interface elements were clickable, but not exactly touchable. So we had to make some graphic changes, make elements larger. And then we even added new graphic elements to add to a more user-friendly experience, like a close button to a drawer that pops up at the bottom of the screen. We disabled right-clicking because the last thing we wanted in the gallery was for users to be able to right-click their way into deleting files. And yes, there's definitely a multi-touch gesture for right-clicking. We removed some functionality. The ability to take notes and citations is great, but since this wasn't a personal computer in a personal setting, it just didn't make sense to have it. The Clapison catalog was small, so we didn't imagine users wanting or needing to search. Plus, we didn't feel it was an appropriate tool for the gallery setting, and we felt the same about print and user login, and also the ability to increase or decrease the font size. So we set the text to be one readable size for all. We disabled pop-up windows to other content to keep visitors focused on what was in front of them. And we also removed links to other sites, so we don't want a user ending up on YouTube watching their favorite excerpt from last night's Tonight Show. A timer was necessary so that if the catalog hadn't been touched for 5 minutes, it would automatically reload and present the page you should begin with instead of the page the previous user left off at. So we made those changes and much more in a matter of a week, and then sat down and went through the application again, made more changes, and again. So in the end, everything went off without a hitch, right? Well, one thing we forgot to account for were the computer settings. Turn off all updates. Operating system updates, application updates, HP updates, browser updates. Even though we had software that should have done that for us, stuff still popped up. It was no fun to get a call about an update screen popping up in the gallery during visiting hours. But yes, overall, things did work. Did work out well. Within weeks, we demonstrated that we could use our OSCI platform for another purpose with some minor changes. And we know now that you can't just put this onto that. You change your target audience and setting, and pretty much everything changes in how you tell your story, even the content. We now have all those changes documented for next time, and actually, the James Ensor exhibit that's opening up this week is using the platform as well. This time it was a lot easier. So we knew what to do this time. All right. Thank you. Sure. We actually didn't use kiosk software. We used Chrome and just use that in kiosk mode. Yeah. Yes. We do have some, but it actually, unfortunately, was not a priority because we just we didn't have enough time, and the OSCI platform was just kind of finishing up the development phase. So, unfortunately, we did. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
I'm wondering how people will interact with this before.
Yeah, and that's definitely we will now. We have Google Analytics built in, and I agree. It was very text heavy, and the content did change, but I think it could have changed even more. Because in a gallery setting, I was watching people and people were reading, but I don't think it's the best thing. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
So, when you disable whiteboard, how do you do that? Because we've got lots of problems with whiteboard.
Oh yeah.
People find all kinds of ways of whiteboarding.
There's a JavaScript code that you put into your web page.
Right. So it was part of the content.
Yeah.
Because that's the issue that we get. Like, we get developers sending us content, and they don't disable whiteboard, and then it's up to the system side which they do.
Right. Yeah. It was right in the index files. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Cait Reizman. I'll be graduating from the MA program in Museum Studies at the George Washington University this May. If you aren't yet a believer in young minds and emerging professionals, at least you can rest assured that what I'm about to present has been tried and tested and can be done and sustained on a budget of ramen. Our museums are being challenged to serve increasingly larger publics. For some museums, this means figuring out how to include a specific community which was previously excluded. For others, this means engaging online audiences, which may be 10 times as many participants as will ever walk through the museum's doors. And while we're facing these challenges, we're asking ourselves a lot of questions. How do we do this? How do we make our information accessible, compelling, and relatable enough to inspire interaction from so many different people, networks, and communities who we don't even know yet? But I'd like to take a moment and turn those questions around and ask you instead to think about, how would you design differently for one visitor instead of 10,000? What would you want to know about that one visitor? How would you get that information? And then what would it take to scale your new design to serve all 10,000 visitors equitably? I propose that location-based technologies can help us start to answer some of these questions. Technologies like radio frequency identification, assisted GPS, and iBeacons are making it possible to not only track how visitors are navigating our spaces, but to understand how long they're pausing to look at certain things. How long are they reading our labels? What are they stopping to look at or not stopping to look at? There have even been projects done using pulse monitors to track people's physiological responses to what they view. What I'm interested in is how we can use the data collected from these technologies to better understand our visitors' interests and output content and opportunities for engagement that respond more personally to their interests, needs, and experiences in real time. I define this concept as smart scripting. Here's what this might look like. When a visitor walks into the museum, they receive a key card, fob, button, or other token that they can wear or carry in their pocket. As they move through the exhibit, sensors, readers detect their movement, and this information is stored in a database. Monitors used in place of or in addition to traditional print labels can display digital labels and multimedia content that continuously adapt and refresh to become more personalized to that visitor's behaviors. To better understand how this could be implemented, I started developing an RFID-enabled prototype. This system did 5 things. It translated label text to visitors' preferred languages. It aggregated content to narrate connections among objects the visitors previously viewed. It used recommender algorithms to calculate and predict visitors' interests based on pause time at different objects. It recognized repeat users and presented them more advanced information to enhance what they learned previously. Finally, it augmented the monitor display to accommodate multiple users simultaneously. The prototype consisted of a laptop running with a Linux VirtualBox connected to 2 Arduino Unos and RFID readers. Something like this. As tags approach the readers, this transaction would be recorded in a database. Then a PHP website would output a personalized message to the tag holder. Since the final display is a web page, this means that the system can do anything a web page can do. You can use audio and visual content, games, accessibility features, and responsive design. The system actually uses multiple URLs for different devices to ensure that content fits correctly. Now, this project was really my first serious endeavor into using microcontrollers or even programming at all. So I frequently sought advice from friends who are computer scientists. One of them, Alejandro Gutierrez, is a cloud security specialist who's completing his PhD at the University of Cincinnati, and he really took an eager interest in the project. Once we were on board and working together was really when some of our best work started to happen. We eventually moved from local hosting on the Linux box to using Raspberry Pis and cloud hosting using an Amazon EC2 instance. This really opened the door for us to make the project more portable, scalable, and secure while still keeping it entirely open source. Using Raspberry Pis and cloud hosting, it would be possible for museums in different parts of the world to sync up their personalized content delivery systems and collaborate in making opportunities for communication across spaces and devices in the fashion of the Internet of Things. Some of the current areas we're exploring include app integration and more mobile social experiences. For example, if a visitor uses an app to engage with the museum's online content, perhaps even MOOCs, the text they see in the gallery might become more advanced to tailor to the demonstrated level of familiarity with the content. Visitors who come to the museum in a group might sync their tags so that they can share messages and content with friends and have it appear in screens in different parts of the exhibit. We're also very interested in expanding our accessibility features, such as by incorporating automatic reading for visitors who are blind or have low vision. What I would like to ask you about, though, is if you think we should do these things. Is it ethical to record visitors' behavior and tailor the experiences we provide based on a computational prediction of their preferences? Can we encrypt the data to ensure that the information we collect stays secure? And can we promise to do enough good to justify the costs of implementing and maintaining the systems we create? Thank you very much for your time. Any questions? Sorry? Okay, so right now it works entirely with RFID tags. The tags can be programmed so that, say, a baby boomer can pick up the baby boomer tag and use it throughout. But we've always been really open to the idea of potential app integration or other opportunities that people can use to self-identify themselves. Yes. I'm a student, so this was largely an independent project, just done, in the apartment kind of thing. But there is a little bit of a little demo that with a prototype that works with the Raspberry Pis and the Arduinos.
So not really a question, but an answer to your question. Yes, we should do that.
Okay.
And I think there is some ethical issues with this, but if we collect information in a way which is not necessarily identifying the person, but identifying an individual doing things in the museum, then it's less of a problem. So there is different ways to address it. And the other thing is that if somebody chose to identify himself, then that's not a problem.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think the way we execute a system like this, we really have to be conscientious of what kinds of questions we're asking, what kinds of data we're collecting, and how we're securing it. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad as a whole. We just need to be careful about being thoughtful to our visitors.
Right. What's your next step? What do you want to do next?
Well, right now we're learning. And I think that's sort of the fun of doing a prototype, is that you can keep making something and challenging yourself on a low budget and keep pushing the boundaries and thinking, well, can we do that? And then seeing if you can make it. I'd love to see a museum actually do this someday. And I know some are already on their way to doing it. I mean, we've seen some really great presentations here that have also integrated location-based technologies. I'd like to make sure you get time to answer questions as well, because we skipped your presentation.
Any other questions for anybody? Not, you're dismissed. Thanks for coming.